They say numbers don't lie. That's the thing about data. It's objective, clean, unbiased, and it always tells the truth if you're willing to see it. I'm a financial analyst. I notice things, not just big things, not just account flags or quarterly shifts, but the smallest, quietest changes in patterns. That's why, when Jessica started withdrawing cash more often, I noticed. When she booked a massage at a place we'd never heard of on a Wednesday afternoon, I didn't blink. I recorded it. When she went to yoga 3 times a week, but came home looking like she'd been in a wind tunnel with smeared lipstick and someone else's cologne in the air. Well, I took a breath and logged that. It started 5 months before she said the words out loud. We'd been married 8 years. No kids. By design. She liked freedom. I liked clarity. Our roles were defined. She worked in fashion marketing, and I handled our finances. Jessica never paid attention to what she signed. She trusted me. That was her first mistake. The night it all broke wasn't even special. It was a Wednesday. She walked in late, heels in hand, and poured a glass of wine without saying hello. She stared out the window like something had already left her body. Then she said it. I've been seeing someone. I looked at her like she was reporting tomorrow's weather. I know. She turned, startled. What do you mean? You know, I've known for a while. His name's Marcus. Works in your building. Drives a gray 4 Series BMW with overdue registration. Likes whiskey and making dumb jokes. You wore his cologne home on April 14th. She dropped the wine glass. It didn't shatter. Just tipped and bled into the carpet. I stood up and went to the drawer. Pulled out a simple black folder. Nothing dramatic. No yelling. No name-calling. Just calm, brutal math. Inside were copies of receipts, printed text threads, GPS logs, and photos. One of her at a cafe with Marcus. The other of them kissing in his car. I placed it gently on the table in front of her. What is this? She whispered. A statement. You cost me peace, so I've decided to invoice you. She opened the folder and pulled out the final page. Bold type. Centered. Invoice marital breach and damage estimate due. $90,000. Due date. Pending divorce finalization. He didn't smile. I didn't blink. I simply said, we're going to do this clean. You're going to sign the papers. You're going to walk away. And I'm going to make sure you understand what it means to cheat someone who knows how systems work. She just sat there, her mouth slightly open, trembling. I didn't feel satisfaction, just clarity. I walked upstairs, leaving her in the wreckage of her own making. The thing about trust is, it makes people lazy. Jessica trusted me implicitly, with the taxes, the paperwork, the refinance documents. Even the small stuff like transferring titles or opening joint accounts. She signed everything I put in front of her without a second glance, because that's what love looked like to her, blind delegation. She didn't realize I'd stopped being her husband the moment I confirmed the affair 3 months before her confession. I began shifting assets, quietly, legally. I refinanced our home under a trust. With her signature, I sold the second car, opened a shell company, funneled our savings into a personal holding account she had, and knowingly waived access to during a debt consolidation process I explained with just enough jargon to bore her into. Compliance. I had her power of attorney for convenience, granted 5 years ago during a hospital stay. It was still active. She never revoked it. I never reminded her. So when she accused me, days after that night, of being controlling, of manipulating her, I simply brought out the paperwork again. Calm, clean. You signed here, I said, pointing to the dotted line on a refinance form. And here, giving up access to the joint savings account. And here, this one waived your claim to my private equity shares. You tricked me, she whispered, pale as plaster. No, I said. I gave you the opportunity to read every page. You didn't care to. She stood in the living room, shaking, eyes darting around like the walls were closing in. This is fraud. You're a fraud. I laughed. not out of joy, but disbelief. Jessica, you cheated on me. Then you walked into this house, stared me in the face, and expected me to hand you half of everything. That's not how this works. Not with me. Her panic turned to rage. She threw the folder across the room. You always needed to win, even now. No, I said. I needed peace. You took that from me. So now, I've simply reclaimed the cost. It was the first time she cried. Not silent tears, not the manipulative kind. Real, guttural, heaving sobs. But I didn't comfort her. Not anymore. She had Marcus for that. Or so she thought. Later that night, I texted Marcus. You should know what she signed and what she's lost. You're next if you're not careful. I never got a reply, but the read receipt was enough. Jessica never asked me how I got the photos, or how I knew about the hotel in San Diego, or the bank account she opened in secret. Maybe she realized I'd been 10 steps ahead for months, or maybe she was still catching up. Either way, she finally understood. Her betrayal wasn't a secret. It was a trigger, and I had already pulled it. She showed up at my office 2 days later. No makeup, hair unbrushed, panic barely concealed behind oversized sunglasses. She didn't ask to come in. She just dropped a thin manila folder on my assistant's desk and said, "Tell him I'm seeing a lawyer." I didn't flinch. I expected it. That afternoon, I got the text from Michelle Chen, a colleague of mine in corporate law who owed me a favor. She booked a consult. I reviewed everything. You're clean. She's cooked. Jessica thought she'd find a lifeline in legal paperwork. What she found was a record of her own negligence. Every move I made was by the book, documented, witnessed, notarized. Not a single asset was hidden. Every signature was hers. She gave it all away 1 page at a time. Too busy texting Marcus to notice she was erasing her future. Michelle told her, bluntly, "You don't have a case. He didn't steal anything. You gave it to him." Jessica apparently went silent for a full minute. Then, in true Jessica fashion, she said, "But he set me up." Michelle shrugged. "That's not illegal. That's marriage." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. That night, she called me. I didn't answer. Then Marcus did. He left a voicemail, short, tense. His voice cracked in places. "I'm out." Man, she lied to me too. I didn't know it was like that. "Please don't go after my job. I'm done with her. I swear." I never said a word in return. Just saved the message. In case. Jessica must have found out he billed because, for the first time since this all began, she didn't rage or scream or threaten. She texted me one line, "Please don't ruin him." I stared at the message for a while, then replied, "I don't ruin people. They just trip on their own lies." The next morning, a new email appeared in her inbox. No threats, no insults, just a PDF. It was every message, every receipt, every hotel confirmation, a timeline, a digital confession in chronological order. No commentary, just facts. And at the top, "This goes public if you contest the divorce." She didn't reply, but I saw her open it. 14 times. I gave her 2 weeks to sign the papers. She didn't need that long. She had nothing left. Not the house, not the car, not the man she gambled it all for. Just a name she'd tarnished and a past she couldn't rewrite. At 11:47 a.m. on a Thursday, the signed divorce packet arrived in my inbox. No note, no apology. I transferred a $5,000 moving fund to her account and blocked her number. Because even in war, I had limits. And because now, I was done.